Just a few words of introduction from my side. As I mentioned, my name is Magdalena. I work at Deviniti as the Atlassian Ecosystem Business Partner, and I will be your host today. In terms of how the meeting will go, we are planning to record this webinar and then share the content with you in most probably written form. So please stay tuned for updates from our side. If you have any questions that you would like to direct to our speakers today, we will have a Q&A session at the end. So please keep them coming, and we will get back to them after the presentation that we'll be giving to you today. And before we kick off, one last thing. We have prepared a quick questionnaire for you guys to ask you about your ITSM practice and experiences. We want to pick your brains on not only your knowledge of the Deviniti app portfolio, but also ask you about which of these tools that we have on offer are part of your tech stack, both those of you who are solution partners working with your customers, as well as the direct users who we have also today with us. So please feel free to share. We also would like to hear about the top ITSM issues that affect operations and efficiency at your organization that you come across most often. So out of interest, if you would like to share this with us, the questionnaire is now open for your answers. And I think this is all of the housekeeping that I was planning to start off with today. So as far as introductions go, Patricia, could you please say a few words about yourself today and your role at Tecnofor and what you will be, your experience in the current role that you have?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Magda. Hi, I'm Patricia Gonzalez, and I'm a Atlassian architect and technology consultant at Tecnofor. My experience has been around designing and implementing solutions that optimize organizational performance in the financial services sector, mostly. And for the last 5 years, I have been designing and implementing new work models, defining IT operational processes, and integrating the Atlassian suite tools in organizations.
Thank you so much. Radek, your turn. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, everybody. My name is Radek, and I am right now the head of the product department at Deviniti. So in our team, we have built and are continuously building new apps for Jira and other platforms. And right now we have over 20 apps on the marketplace under the umbrella of Deviniti and one more brand that's called Hexagen. We are focusing mainly on ITSM apps, so you probably know us from the top leading apps within that realm. I did lead a team of consultants in the past at Deviniti. I've been with Deviniti for over 9 years, so that's close to half of my career in IT and software development. And yeah, at heart, I'm still a software developer, although I haven't done that professionally for years now. I'm rather focusing on management, but still technology is something I deeply cherish.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting to have both of you today with us, and I feel that the experience that you will be sharing will be extremely valuable to the audience in the spirit of genuine knowledge sharing. In terms of how we'll be working today, we will kick off with a presentation which Patricia will be giving about the experience that Tecnofor has with the implementation that feature the Deviniti apps. And then we will move on to a comment from Radek and a conversation that we will be following up on with the presentation. So I hope you're now all comfortable. Everyone's had a chance to grab a coffee, and you can hear us and see us well. If there are any technical issues, please let us know in the chat window, and we will do our best to accommodate you. And I think we're ready to kick off with the presentation. So Patricia, fire away.
Thank you, Magda. So today we are going to talk about improving your asset and configuration management in Jira, featuring the extension for Jira Service Management. So first of all, okay, I would like to introduce to you guys Tecnofor. For those of you that doesn't know us, Tecnofor is a technology consulting firm focused on process automation with 20 years of professional experience. We are passionate about intelligent processes, and understanding, controlling, and modeling them is at our core. Our team is known for being agile in providing responses and very quick solving problems. We also have a great ability to emphasize with different areas and situations, and despite being based in Spain, we also operate in Latin America, and our ideas span across the globe. Okay, so with that being said, with that introduction being said, let's start. Okay, with the core of the talk. What is a CMDB? Okay. It's a database that stores detailed information about the components of an information technology system, okay? Like, for example, services, hardware, software, application, network, and any other element considered relevant to management. So the goal is to map an enterprise services and the configuration items needed to support those services. When we create a robust CMDB, the organization will be able to identify and prioritize strategic services, whether or not they are included in their service catalog. So this structure helps support the entire service, from the hardware to the software to people, suppliers, okay? Important. A CMDB is not just an inventory. A CMDB is not just a list of assets with relationships, and a CMDB is not just a database, okay? So what is important to have a CMDB? Well, for us, a CMDB provides a source of truth for the IT infrastructure configuration data. It can help IT teams make informed decisions about planning and change management. Also, the configuration management. A CMDB helps IT teams manage and control change to IT infrastructure elements. So, as I said, it's a source of truth for configuration data, which means that any change that can be tracked and audited. So we are sure that the integrity of the system configuration. Also, a CMDB helps IT teams understand the impact that change have or may have in the infrastructure. It of course helps us reduce the risk and minimize the downtime. The CMDB can be used to perform a risk analysis, identifying elements that are particularly sensitive to potential threats, and providing controls to mitigate or prevent service damage. And lastly, having a CMDB helps IT teams identify and eliminate unnecessary or duplicate components of the IT infrastructure. So this helps reduce cost and improve efficiency. So, okay, if I'm not using a CMDB, what are the main risks? So the main problem with the CMDB are siloed data and outdated information. Before implementing a CMDB, most organizations have data scattered across different systems with different owners. So it makes it very difficult to have an overview of all the configuration items and their interdependencies, which in turn make it more complicated, more difficult to know what information is current and what is not, okay? So this prevents teams from having important contextual information when making decisions. We can affect risk assessment, reporting, decision-making, incident resolution times, okay? So now we know what is important, the risk. What are the main characteristics of a CMDB? It's usually a graph of relationships and dependencies. It's an IT service map. Also, the creation of configuration item and the collection of their data. We can do it manually or with integration, with discovery tools. Also, the third main characteristic, compliance functions. It provides auditors and with detailed logs and visibility into the current status and the historical change and incidents. This is important for compliance purposes. Also, another characteristic, it has to have access controls that allow different levels of access to be granted to different individuals or teams to track change back to the source in case that any incident happens, okay? And lastly, dashboards with metric and analysis of configuration items make it easy to track the status, the relationship, the effect of change that can cause incidents or problems, and the cost in money and also resources of creating and maintaining these services in organization. So, okay, what can we manage in a CMDB? Well, anything that you want, that you can and you want, basically. Okay. Configuration items can be basically grouped into broad categories. We have the technical and non-technical entities. Okay. The technical ones are like business and technical services, like application, software, database, containers, virtual machines, hardware, networks, okay? And then we can also model non-technical entities if we need to represent their dependencies or influence from other assets in the IT service map. So these non-technical entities can be, for example, users, customers, organizations, locations, service agreement providers, okay, among others. So, how should we structure a CMDB? In the design process, you also have to think about how to structure a CMDB, and this will be one of the most important processes to make sure that the database has the right information and is organized efficiently, is well organized. So, which steps should we follow? From our point of view and our experience, these are the steps, okay? First, identify the elements to be included. Before starting to structure the CMDB, it is important to identify the elements to be included. So let's get at least minima clear before starting. The second one, define the attributes. Once the items to be included in the CMDB has been identified, it is necessary to define the attributes of each item. This may include information such as name, location, status, okay? Then we have to establish a relationship. Is it important to establish a relationship between the different items in the CMDB? For example, a relationship can be established between a server and the application running on that server. So in case anything happens in the server, we can know that application might be affected, okay? Also, define hierarchy levels. The items in the CMDB can be organized in different hierarchy levels. For example, servers can be grouped by geographical location or by company department. Also, establish change management policies. Policies and procedures should be established for change management in the CMDB. These include the approval and the documentation of change made into the database. Okay, this is important again for I will say it. for compliance functions, okay? Also, implement management tools. To efficiently manage the CMDB, we highly recommend to implement configuration management and automation tools for the database, for the update, and for the maintenance, okay? And lastly, we should establish roles and permissions. Roles and access permission must be defined to ensure that users only have access to the necessary information in the CMDB. Ensure stability of your CMDB with control access, okay? By following these steps, we can guarantee almost, okay, that the CMDB will be well organized and will be a reliable source of information for your IT infrastructure configuration management. But like everything, there is not such thing as a perfect guide. There is not a magical recipe. So, you know, you have to implement it. You have to structure with head, okay? So now that we have established the basics, how does Atlassian implement anything related to assets and configuration management in their tools? Well, Atlassian has assets for Jira Service Management that offers an open and flexible data structure to manage all these resources. So this CMDB is integrated in Atlassian, brings a series of functionalities that if we use it correctly, if we configure it correctly, it ensures the success of creating and managing our CMDB, and if not, like everything, you know, it will be a little bit of a headache. So first, the first thing when we see when we enter Atlassian Access is is our object schemes. Okay, so object schemes is the configuration management database itself. Okay, that contains the object types and the objects. So we can create multiple object schemes, like everything else in Jira. And in Atlassian, you have only need a name and a key. And as we can see here, you can create multiple object schemes. So why should we create multiple ones? What is useful? Well, first, if it helps breaking data into smaller units because it's easier to audit it and to maintain. And also, it is recommended for sensitive data because information like, for example, employee information, it's easier to group all data into that single object scheme and restrict access permissions. In the end, it comes down to how the data will be used and how we'll update it, so that it can be grouped into object schemes in a logical way. Okay, so you can use as many object schemes as it makes sense, and also you can create links between objects in different schemes, so that is not restricted. So inside the object schemes, we create objects. An object is anything that is singular and unique. A laptop, for example, a server, a piece of equipment, a contract. Okay, objects here are your assets or your configuration items, and they can be linked to Jira issues, so they provide as much content as soon as an issue happens. Okay, they can also be linked to each other. They can also be linked to each other through object reference that show that how they depend on each other. Okay. Then object types. Okay. When we have similar objects, like for example the laptops, okay, we group them into object types. Object types are like the containers for the actual objects. So they are part of an outline and define the object that the outline will contain. We can define ourselves the object types, or we can use an object scheme template that is automatically populated with some object types that can be customized that are available in assets. Okay, so as you can see in the slide, there is like the common object types like business services, server, laptop, software, and as we have said before, the object types do not have to be just IT assets. There are many people who add other useful data. For example, you can put vendors, locations, employees, business priority, okay? You can arrange the object types in a hierarchical tree, as you see, and in any way that it makes the most sense. And this tree is primarily intended for navigation and readability. But this configuration, if you do it right, it will make easier to configure all the attributes because you can configure attributes in the parent that it will be inherited from parent to child. So it's easier every time you have to create an object. Okay. So talking about attributes. Okay, the next thing you have to configure. An attribute represents a specific information attached to an object, such as the description of that object, for example, the model number, another associated object, okay, a reference, or a user assigned as the owner. And each object type has its own set of attributes. For example, for the object type laptops, we may have model, serial number, owner, cost, okay, manufacturer. So entering the actual values of the attributes is what defines the object, okay? Just for information, okay, in assets, there are 4 mandatory attributes for all the object types. Like always with Jira, name and key, created date, and date of last update, okay? Then, as we said, okay, one of the reference. Okay, reference. Okay, a reference is a connection between 2 different objects in assets. Each object can be connected to many other objects, but it's not needed. You have to do it through the attributes that contain the reference to the other object. So, for example, if the location is the object type itself, its location object can be one of the components of its locations. So this allows us to quickly set the location of each, for example, notebook by selecting just that reference, okay? Having reference between objects, it brings 2 main advantages. We can map dependencies between objects. So, for example, we can map our IT service management application to business services, and the host, the operating system, and the files they depend on. And in doing so, it's very helpful to understand the effects of a change. So if I change this operating system, what might be affected? And also to identify the causes of incidents, okay? Also, the second advantage, they are easy to manage. They are way easier to manage. For example, if an office moves from Madrid to Barcelona, for example, you only need to update the Madrid object instead of changing Madrid to Barcelona on every laptop, okay? In the reference, we have 2 types of reference, okay? They are the outgoing reference, in which the current object reference another one. And then we have incoming reference, where another object refers to the current object, okay? And then also, as you can see in the slide, it can be created by the hierarchical viewer, and it's easier to see this map of services. So how do we get to this point? How do we get all the information updated in assets in our CMDB? Entering all the information manually can be a never-ending task for larger organizations, and also it can be a pain. So as usual, Atlassian brings a couple of tools to make this job easier. Okay, I will just go through them rather quickly, just for information. Okay, with Atlassian Access, we have these functionalities, like, for example, asset discovery. Okay, that is available in the Atlassian marketplace. This is an agentless analyzer that collects network assets. You can choose which assets and attributes to include in the object schemes and create your own analysis pattern, and you can schedule it to run periodically. So it makes the job easier. Also, we have importing JSON import. Okay, if you have all the information in a JSON file, you can import it. We have a CSV import. So if you have your asset in an Excel or a Google spreadsheet, you can use it. And then we have external imports that makes possible to add that information from other sources, and you can schedule them to synchronize with import rules. You can modify, so make it everything easier. Also, with assets, there is a new set of object-related triggers in automation and automation actions that can be used to automate various tasks. Okay, so some example, we can update the owner or status of a laptop during support request for workflows. We can update the status or parts of your infrastructure to incident in progress when an incident-related issue occurs. We can automatically route Jira incident to specific staff members based on attached objects. And also, as you can see in the slide, you can create an automation to alert key people when licenses are about to expire, for example. Okay, the goal is to have Jira work for us, automate as much as possible in order to reduce manual labor and manual maintenance. Okay, so as much as possible, automate. It will be easier. Then, as we have said before, okay, all this information is linked to Jira Service Management through different custom fields. So not only for the agents that can work with all the available and updating information where during ticket resolution, but also for the customer to see it. Okay. As I had said before, in order to maintain all the information in the CMDB updated, okay, with the least possible manual steps, we recommend to automate as much as possible. So, for example, using dynamic forms that is available in extension for Jira Service Management, we can include the asset field, and this asset field can be used as the control field and as the master field, meaning that if I choose a particular asset, when I open the ticket, the rest of the form can adjust to the selected asset. So if I select my laptop, it will display different follow-up questions that if, for example, Magda select her laptop or Radek select a router or a server. Okay, so as I said, automate as much as possible in order to be easier to maintain the CMDB. Okay, so how far do we go? To what level of detail do we need to go with this definition? So the appropriate granularity for the CMDB depends on the needs of the organization and the specific configuration management that Windows requires. But there is a couple of points, okay? The level of detail should be enough to satisfy the organization configuration management requirements, and this may vary depending on the size of and complexity of the organization. Okay, and also you have to have in mind, as we said before, compliance and security requirements. Also, complexity of relationships. Okay, the appropriate granularity depends on the complexity of the relationship between the different components in the IT infrastructure. Also, the appropriate granularity should also be scalable so that the CMDB can handle an increased number of components as the organization grows. And lastly, it has to be easy for users to use and understand the data. If you have too much information, it may be difficult to use and maintain a database, okay? So it has to go as far as it makes sense, and you have to review it periodically. So everyone always asks, what are the tips for not failing in the attempt of building CMDB? Well, we have seen many initiatives fail because they try to do too much at once. They generate a large product that is difficult to manage and difficult to update. So our tips, okay? When you start building your CMDB, keep it simple. It's always easier to build over time or add things as you go. The more attributes you add now, the more details you will need to consider in the future. So one way to do this, for example, is to start with the most familiar service and map it from start to finish. With this, you will get used to the process of mapping items, of capturing all the attributes and relationship information. And then from there, you will gain confidence, and mapping the next services will not seem as much complex. Another tip is to start where you are. You won't have a perfect configuration management database, but at least you will have the basics, okay? Don't forget that this also applies to the details that are captured. So when starting out, consider limited to basic information. And from there, you can expand and as much as you need and as much as you use it, okay? Also, the benefits of a CMDB are many, but you should not lose sight of the fact that your database, your CMDB, is only as good as the information it contains. So another B for us is build checkpoints into the process, okay, to make sure that the data is up to date and reflects your environment. The quickest and easiest way to check if the data is correct is for people to use it. If your people is using it, then you are in the right path, okay? And also, building a CMDB is a progressive process. So you need to continue it over time and not stop. The CMDB will grow as your services grow. You will have to add more attributes, more object types, okay? And it's all right. It's progressive, okay? And with that, we have finished the presentation. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for your insightful presentation. I hope our audience has enjoyed it. And Radek, I would like to ask you for some comments from your side, because it would be very interesting to hear how the Deviniti app portfolio comes into this picture of the implementations and the applications that Patricia has just spoken about.
Let me just find the unmute button. Thank you, Patricia, for the presentation. Yes, so from the vendor's perspective, when I'm thinking through apps about how we can improve processes and how we can improve also configuration management database, I see a lot of possibilities here. And one of them is to learn more about the assets through the eyes of a user, of the end user, of the customer portal, let's say. So one way how I could contribute to this picture is propose to explore an app that's called My Requests that we have on the marketplace. And what it does is it improves the native functionality of Jira called My Requests, where you have a very limited set of information about the requests. You just have a few columns and very poor filtering. And there you could add any column you want, also an asset column to these requests. So when you have a lot of them, then you can find them really quickly, only those that are related to your specific asset. That's one, to improve the user experience. On the other end, when I'm thinking about the service consumers, I'm also thinking about the service providers, so the support teams, service requests, implementation teams. And I'm thinking oftentimes the issues in Jira are scattered across a lot of projects, and this poses some limitations on how you can process them, because then you need to have separate tabs open. It's quite many sometimes to jump between the projects and jump between the queues. And these queues can be related to specific assets that you would like to see in one view. And thanks to our app that's called Queues, you can group these these issues related to specific assets, even coming from different projects, in one view, in one screen. So this speeds up the decision-making process of what you should do right now and what you should do next, and pick your priorities. I'm also thinking about change enablement. And in this case, when you have changes related to some group of assets that are similar to each other, let's say you decommission a server. One server is decommissioned in a probably very similar way to another server. You have a specific set of steps to undertake, maybe subtasks that you want to assign. And so how to improve this change enablement here? I would say you can reuse these steps, this issue structure, and we do have a solution to that. It's called issue templates that you can, let's say, proactively configure and then just inject the right assets to that template, and it will instantiate your group of issues that you can work on. So that's another thing. One more thing is I'm thinking about also reporting. Managers also need something. So reports is the way to give them answers to questions that they have about how things are going. And from the CMDB perspective and ITSM perspective, I think which assets are related to the most failures, how many changes have you done, including which assets, what are the numbers. The reports can show you that, and I can wholeheartedly recommend a solution that's called Charts and Reports for JSM. There's a company called V26. It's a really nice reporting tool, so we can find that out. But there are also many other applications from other marketplace vendors. There's, I think, right now over 4,000 apps on the marketplace. So I encourage you to explore and to find those that should suit you. And yeah, that's how I see it from the app vendor's perspective.
Thank you so much for that insight. I think one of the benefits of the Atlassian ecosystem is the fact that you can mix and match and build a very custom solution out of products that are tested and validated by many users. But again, the marketplace is vast at the moment and the combinations are endless. So it's good to have a practitioner's perspective, which is the reason why we brought the two of you here, because I believe you cannot really top that. Thank you so much. I see that also there are questions and comments coming in on the chat from the audience. So it's good to see that we're keeping everyone engaged. Right now, I would like to follow up with some questions to the both of you to elaborate on some of the parts of the subject matter that you have mentioned earlier. And Patricia, if that's okay, I would like to start off with you. My first question is, what is the ideal CMDB for you? If you can share that with us.
Yeah, well, as I said before, I don't think there is an ideal CMDB. There is not a magical recipe of what should be included and what not. A CMDB has to resolve your needs, your organization needs. And the big question here, the question will be, are you able to get useful information that helps you make decisions, information that helps you make impact and risk analysis, that helps you improve your efficiency? For me, if a CMDB covers that, or some extent of that, then you have quite an idea or a good CMDB for the organization, for your needs.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you so much for that. Another thing I was thinking about when listening to your testimony is a question I have for Radek. How does dynamically adjusting customer portal forms based on assets enhance the user experience for incident reporting and service requests? If you could comment on that.
Sure. I hear some music. Nice. Right, so about dynamically adjusting forms to specific assets, maybe in the process of incident management or service request management, also change enablement probably. It's important that if you have a large form, and it happens more often than you would think, that forms grow over time. And if you have 20, 30 plus fields, it's hard for the end users to actually use these forms and scroll through them and find the right fields. And it ends up being a mess. They just put all information to whatever field they find. And it doesn't end up well. It just adds everybody some work to process, because the agent who processes such ticket needs to split it into the right information, into the right fields. It's just unnecessary. One more thing that happens is that they bypass the form and they use another form of contact, and it's not optimal. So here in this case, we do have a solution that's called Dynamic Forms. It's a part of Extension, this app that was in the title of this webinar. And what you could do is you can dynamically build a form based on what fields, what values of fields you set. So the end user in the beginning sees just a few fields that are the most important, and the form unfolds as you go. So you can set different questions for an asset that's a laptop, different set of questions for an asset that's a mobile phone, that's software, anything you want there. So they don't see all the fields, all the questions you want to ask them at once, because they are unnecessary. You can build the form based on what the asset actually is. And this reduces clutter, it reduces cognitive load, it makes the quality of information in that ticket better. So this is about marrying the two worlds of assets, being things mainly, or people sometimes, and work to be done on those assets, which is incidents, problems, things like that. And this is how we can improve the whole process just on the first step when they are submitting this piece of work to be done on that asset.
Thank you for that. Moving on, another thing that comes to mind that would be great to hear more about is which CMDB information should I choose to show in the tickets? And this is a question I would like to direct to Patricia.
That's a good question. Since we can configure to show whatever field or information data that we want in the ticket, my advice here is to just add what you need at first, the basics, and then from there, as you grow your CMDB, you will be able to detect if there is a need to add more information in the tickets or not. Because if, as Radek said, if you add too much information, it will be like too much. Okay, so it's better to keep it simple at first, and then add it as you need it.
Right, I think the keep it simple rule is universal to many other applications, not only CMDB, but it's good to see that it also finds its application here. And just to follow up, so how do you recommend identifying the elements to be included in the CMDB? Are there any specific criteria or guidelines that you would recommend?
Well, there is nothing specific. There is not I wish there was a guideline to make it more easier, but the reality is that it depends of the type of information that you want to add in your CMDB. So as I said, start with the basic, and this also applies here, and the one that you know of, that the one that you are able to update frequently through any media, like manually or automatically. And then from there, as you discover that you have more needs, you will be able to detect what other data or elements you need to be add to the CMDB, because what we said before, keep it simple, start where you are, and from there start building. If you try to make something way bigger in the beginning, it will be difficult to update, and it will be painful.
Right. Thank you for that. Another thing, sorry, I'm keeping this directed to you, Patricia, but there's another, with everything that you share with us, I have upcoming thoughts. So the last question before I move over to Radek. What are some practical use cases where scheduling periodic runs for asset discovery is beneficial? So like how frequently should organizations consider running that?
Well, running assets discovery is beneficial. When, as we said before, when it's well configured, it can help organizations to have a complete visibility of their assets, because it will help improve performance and reduce time and cost of maintenance. It's something that runs automatically, so it reduces the effort of maintaining. So as much as we can automate that dates for the information, the better. About the frequency, it depends of the size of the organization, the data that you want to collect, the type of object, the attribute. So there is not, again, there is not something as a right or wrong number of times that you should run it. Here sometimes it's just a trial and error thing. You have to run it as much as you need. So at first maybe let's say once a week, and then you discover that your assets it get updated more often, so you need to run it daily, for example, or not, and then you run it one a month. So here there is not a magical number, just start running it, and then you will discover the right number of times.
Right, so learning by practice, basically.
Yeah.
And that's also something universal. Thank you, Patricia. There's a lot of things that we're picking up on. Going back to the vendor's perspective, Radek, if I may come back to you. I'm interested in learning about what changes do you plan, if any, to introduce to the Deviniti product roadmap on the deriving from the ITSM AI trends, because AI is a hot topic and this is something we have not touched today yet. So it would be interesting to see if there's anything in that realm that we have to wait for.
Yeah, of course, we're planning changes. The product is never done, as they say in the product world. So we do listen to a lot of input from our customers. I can't say too much, unfortunately, but the directions which we are exploring, one of them is conversational ways of communicating with our apps. So it would be a different interface than the one that we use right now. A lot of companies are exploring this direction now. Even Atlassian did some nice progress here. So we are also trying to surf this wave. One more thing we're exploring is intelligent analysis of issues with the configuration of our apps. So there could be some advisor in the app that would say, this is not optimal, you can do it better this way, and learn from your configuration how to configure it for the best setup. One more thing we're thinking about is incident prevention. So not just how to optimally solve incidents, but also how to prevent them from happening in the first place. So there could be some ways of listening to signals from your network or from your hardware, and then saying this is going to blow up in a moment, so please take care of it. And this is a nice direction to explore. And one more thing is change interference. And so how to detect that two changes that you are going to implement can interfere with one another. Right now, change approval boards do this, so people gather up with a lot of knowledge. They look at these changes, they assess the risks. But I think a lot here could be done with AI to help these teams. Yeah, so these are the directions that we're exploring.
It's very interesting. We will definitely like to hear more when you are prepared and ready to share that with us. So thank you for that perspective. We are around about 10 minutes away from the closing ceremonies. So I just wanted to remind our audience that if there are any questions that you'd like to direct to our speakers today, feel free to drop them on the chat. And while we wait for these, another question to Radek, if I may. For those customers out there who have previous experience with extension for JSM and would like to make it a part of their stack right now, what do you think should be the core argument for this introduction that they could use with their managers to justify this not only cost but also organization change that goes along with the implementation of a new app?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so managers tend to look at benefits from everything that you implement. So they don't care about features, what fields are supported. It's not their language. We need to talk about what's going to change and how. So as I mentioned before, forms tend to grow, and this results in unnecessary work to be done by the support agents, because either the quality of information that's in the form is low, and then people need to work on making this quality better instead of solving incidents and actually putting their mind where it should be. So also forms that are long tend to be bypassed. People tend to use email channels, Slack messages to contact these support teams, even though there are policies not to work on anything that there is no ticket for. They need to still communicate, and this is unnecessary work. Every question generates a cost that's in the form of time of the people we need to pay to answer these questions. So if you avoid these questions in the first place, you tend to save money, and you tend to raise the customer satisfaction because they get answers faster. So it all starts with the right form, and how we solve it is exactly through the dynamic forms. Now we can talk about features because we have covered the benefits. So dynamic forms is the solution here, because the customers more eagerly use these forms and understand them and put the right information in the right fields, and it makes life easier for everybody. Also, sometimes we see that the fields are scattered across the form as it grows. So you have if you want to have the address filled in, sometimes the street name and the city is somewhere else. And if you want to group them, there is no good way to do this in bare Jira. So we have introduced something called bundled fields, where you can bundle these things into logical parts. And it also makes filling in the form easier and analyzing it later as well. One more thing is, if you want to also reduce the cost of questions, people tend to ask about information they don't know anything about, even though it's in the ticket, because it's not possible to expose this information in native Jira on the ticket itself in the customer portal. And we have solved this in extension. You can see this information. You can expose, let's say, the SLA. It might be uncomfortable for the support team, but the customer also has the need to know if they are being served well. They are paying for the service, and they need to be sure that you are meeting their SLAs. So you can show this SLA on the portal. You can show the attachments, who's assigned to the ticket. Also, you can show the links to the underlying tickets. Let's say there's a bug in software and they have filed an incident for that. You can show the linked bug, and you can see they can see the status of that bug, so they won't ask about it. So you have saved time of the agent. That's something you can do. Also, it's important to have proper access control to the right forms. Not everybody should be able to hire a new person to a team, or fire somebody, or purchase something important, something expensive. And these forms need to be hidden from the people who don't have permission to do this. And also, extension allows you to do this. although on the DC it's implemented in the extension itself, on the cloud we weren't able to do that due to the task instrumentations, but we have found a workaround. There's another app called Theme Extension, which allows you to brand your portal. It's something completely separate from Jira. It just talks underneath with Jira, and we can do there whatever we want. So we did move this functionality of hiding forms based on who's looking to Theme Extension. If you're on the cloud, you can use that one. So that's what I can tell you.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of information in that, and again, a lot of mix and matching options. To conclude with an outlook towards the future, Patricia, my last question to you. Also, in the days leading up to the Team 24 conference that Atlassian is hosting just in a week's time, and also going slightly back to Radek's answer to my question about the application of AI in ITSM. Patricia, can you see any trends in the ITSM realm that we should pay closer attention to, other than what has already been mentioned?
Well, I have to say I'm eager and hyped to see what Atlassian can bring to the table with generative artificial intelligence in Jira Service Management and in Jira software. We have seen some use cases with virtual agents, with chatbots, but it's still soon to see which functionalities they can bring, and if that can help with employee experience, with decision making, with cost reduction, with less time in resolving tickets. And I think that's the major trend that is now in, well, not only in the ITSM tools and also PPM and so on. So I think this one we have to pay close attention to.
Right, that's an awesome tip, and I think this is definitely something that we can walk out of here with. Right, guys, I think we've made it to the end. There don't seem to be questions coming in, but to everyone who is here with us today, if there is anything that comes to your minds after this webinar, you can always reach out to us and to Tecnofor for a follow-up. We are available on LinkedIn, and feel free to get in touch in any way you like. I would also like to thank those of you who have been active in the chat. Sergio, hats off to you. Thank you for your valuable insights. And it's awesome to hear that you have experience not only in the realm that we are discussing today, but also with the Deviniti apps. We would love to take the conversation offline if you're up for it. And thank you so much, Patricia and Radek. It was a pleasure to inaugurate the series that we will be hosting as Deviniti in the upcoming weeks and months. As we conclude, I would just like to invite everyone who's here with us today to join us for the next installment of the series. We will be hosting a webinar on the 29th of May. And this time we'll be hosting a solution partner from the US and Brazil market who will be sharing their experience with a product that Deviniti offers on the marketplace, which is called Queues for JSM. So we are staying in the ITSM realm, and look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much once again. Have a great afternoon, and let's stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Goodbye.
Bye.